My boyfriend, 27-year-old male, is currently unemployed. He lives in his father's house and spends most of his time looking for work. He is currently in a program that guarantees him a job, but it doesn't pay until he completes it. We don't live together, and we don't go on many dates because he can't afford it. We end up just making do with dates at his house where he cooks for us and sometimes plans little activities like beach days, karaoke nights, and such. I have never been high maintenance, but sometimes these things do become kind of boring. However, I am understanding of it because of his financial situation, or at least I was. I make a fair amount of money, in the low 6 digits yearly, in the hundreds of thousands. Enough to rent a place and have enough left over for a good time. He doesn't like going out or grand gifts, so I don't have to spend much money on him, mainly during Christmas and Valentine's Day, as he hates his birthday. So the problem isn't really the money. The problem is that he never disclosed to me that he is in a different tax bracket entirely. His parents live modest lives. They live, rent, and work in the city, but they own a house out in the country where my boyfriend currently lives. Whenever they are visiting, he does a big clean and makes sure the place is spotless before they arrive. We have been together for 3 years, and I was helping him this time around. Cleaning the office area is when I found it. A huge binder labeled Boyfriend's Name Finances. I dabbled a bit in finance, so I decided to just flip through it since I was curious. Inside were several documents, most dated around 2002. 2 insurance policies with cash surrender values twice and 3 times my yearly salary, plus a trust account with numbers I genuinely couldn't believe. There was some other stuff I couldn't make heads or tails of too, so I don't believe that's all there is. But the kicker was, all of it was in his name. I'm not stupid. I know it's likely his parents saved all of this up for him and transferred it when he was old enough. But at any point, he could dip into this stuff, and they definitely couldn't stop him. We could be living a much better lifestyle than the one we live now. He could have his own house, a car so he doesn't have to bike everywhere. Hell, he could start a business instead of looking for a job. There's literally no reason either of us should be slaving away in dead-end jobs and programs when he just has this lying around collecting dust. I'm not with him for money. I never even knew he had it. But after seeing that, it made me think about all the times we talked about our future and how we would take trips and build a life spoiling each other. He could do that now if he wanted, but he doesn't. I feel like he's just been stringing me along, and I'm not the guy he really wants to spend the rest of his life with since he doesn't use any of his resources on me. How do I talk to him about this without sounding like a gold digger? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You have a bit of a problem yourself before you proceed forward. You are lying to yourself, and you want to use that lie against a person you claim to love. That's not right. How do I talk to him about this without sounding like a gold digger? If you weren't one, your discussion would be easy, but it seems like you are one. Since he doesn't use any of his resources on me, that's being after his money, being a gold digger. And until you come to peace with the fact that your wants are driven by your desire for someone else's money, your discussion of this subject cannot possibly end well. Because you are after his money with these words and expectations. Also to be noted, your post doesn't seem to include anything bad about him, and the parts you would want to change are money-driven. Comment 2. 1. You totally violated his privacy about his finances. Dude, what kind of person sees a folder marked finances and thinks it's totally okay for me to read this? Did you read his diary also? 2. His living frugally and trying to find a job is literally the best trait an adult could have in this scenario. I want to shake his parents' hands. He has funds, and rather than blow it now and have nothing in a couple years, he's working towards a lifetime of security. TLDR, your boyfriend is an adult and you suck ETA. Boyfriend is 27, OP is 36. Documents are dated around 2002. These funds, trusts, etc. were set up when boyfriend was a child. OP is complaining because his younger boyfriend is poor and now is pissed because they can't get their hands on the trust fund. Jesus flipping Christ. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, A lot has happened since my last post, and I just had to come back to update you all on the situation with my boyfriend and his secret wealth. So, after finding that binder with all of his financial information, I was pretty shaken up. I mean, we've been together for 3 years, and not once did he mention anything about having this kind of money. It's not like I needed him to be rich or anything, but finding out he had enough to change our lives and never saying a word, that stung. I decided to confront him about it. I waited until his parents had left after their visit, and we were alone in the house he keeps so tidy for them. I brought up the binder casually, trying not to sound accusatory. His reaction was, well, it was surprising, to say the least. He got really defensive, saying that the money was his safety net, and that he didn't want our relationship to be based on financials. He said he wanted to make it on his own, without dipping into the trust fund or cashing in those insurance policies. I get wanting to be independent, but this was extreme. But here's where things get really crazy. I found out that not only does he have this money, but he's been using it behind my back. Remember those little dates he planned? Turns out he wasn't as broke as he made himself out to be. He'd been pulling money from his trust to pay for things like the beach day rentals and karaoke equipment. He just didn't want me to know. I felt so betrayed. All this time, I thought we were in the same boat, struggling together. But he was living a double life, pretending to be something he's not. And for what? To test me? To see if I'd stick around without the allure of money? And then, as if that wasn't enough, I found out more about his past that he never told me. Before we met, he used to travel a lot, like luxurious trips to Europe and Asia, staying in 5-star hotels and eating at the fanciest restaurants. His social media was scrubbed clean of this history before we got together, but a mutual friend let it slip, and I found some old photos online. It's like I don't even know who he is anymore. He's this rich guy who's been lying to me about who he is, what he wants, and what he's capable of. And the worst part? He still refuses to use any of that money to better our lives together. He's content with letting me pay for most things because he doesn't want to change the dynamic of our relationship. But wait, there's more. Remember how he hates celebrating his birthday? I found out why. It's not because he doesn't like the attention. It's because his birthday is the same day he receives a huge annual payout from one of the investments. He's been throwing himself solo luxury getaways every year on his hated birthday, using that money. I was so angry and hurt. I felt like our whole relationship was a lie. How could he do this to me? How could he let me believe we were in this together when he was living like a king behind my back? I tried to talk to him about it, to tell him how I felt, but he just shut down. He said I was overreacting and that the money shouldn't change anything between us. But how could it not? How could I trust him after this? And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I found out he'd been talking to his ex. Yep, the one he always told me was crazy and obsessed with him. They'd been chatting online, reminiscing about the good old days when they'd travel together. She knew all about his money, of course. I was devastated. It felt like our whole relationship was a sham. He'd been lying to me, using his wealth in secret, and now he was talking to his ex behind my back. I didn't know what to do. But then, karma came around in the most unexpected way. His trust fund? It took a massive hit due to some bad investments that his financial advisor made without his knowledge. Suddenly, he wasn't the secret millionaire he thought he was. And those insurance policies? They were tied up in some legal issue that made them untouchable for the foreseeable future. He was panicking, realizing that he might actually have to live like the rest of us without a safety net. And me? I was just watching it all unfold, feeling a mix of vindication and heartbreak. He'd been so obsessed with keeping his wealth a secret that he never considered what would happen if it disappeared. Wife said she didn't want me after 1.5 years of marriage. Now she's begging for me back. I'm seeing her again, and I'm starting to feel something. We were together for 8 years, married for 1.5 years. I was her first everything. Despite the negatives included in this post, our relationship was great, loving, and full of adventure. Shortly after we got married, she let me know of some things that had bothered her within the relationship, and that she was concerned if she had made the right decision marrying me, because she'll never know for sure if there's somebody more compatible. She isn't a wordsmith, but she says what she means. Eventually, after a year and a half of witnessing my wife withdraw from me emotionally, despite my best efforts, she informed me she didn't want our relationship anymore. It completely broke me. I loved her so much, I tried so hard, and I felt like our marriage was really improving. She let me know she wasn't 100% on getting married, but still agreed anyway. It took me a while, but I started my healing and letting go of where I could have done better and all that. The issue was never really me, just her inability to communicate. I could have been better, but things could have been worked on between the two of us. Well, some time goes by and I hear about her trying to date one of her coworkers and that it didn't work out. Classic. Another 4 months go by. We've been separated for about 6 months at this point. She starts reaching out to me. In short, she says that she made a stupid, impulsive decision, wishes she gave us more time to figure things out. She really just needed time and space because she felt lost in life. Hearing this pisses me off because I was so supportive and patient with her throughout our relationship, and when I really needed her, she freaking bailed on us. I made her come clean about everything she's been up to. She said she left me because she was curious about life without me. We got together young, and I admit we probably spent too much time together, but I was hoping we could have found a balance together. She was curious about other guys, what it's like to live on her own, etc. I'm understanding of what she says, but at the same time, we choose to be with our partner knowing there are trade-offs. I told her as a condition, if I'm going to feel this out, she needs to be in therapy, and we need to seek couples therapy. She said she never had intimacy with anybody, got rejected by her coworker, and wasn't happy when she tried to go on dates with people. She said pretty early on she regretted breaking up with me. I believe her for the most part, but I also believe in trickle truths being a possibility. So anyway, like some kind of emotional masochism, I agreed to see her and feel this out. I can see her trying to fix things. I used to love her so much, and now I can't really look her in the eyes. It hurts me. The things she did to end the relationship keep replaying in my head. We've been seeing each other regularly for about 4 months, including 1 month of couples therapy, and my dilemma is, after this time, I still don't feel comfortable around her. We don't argue or anything. We never did. The intimacy is nice. The communication is more open than it was before. I just feel nothing. It's weird. I don't want to kiss her or hold her hand or tell her jokes or anything. Is there something I need to do? Or is this a bad sign that she might have broken my perception of her to an irreparable point? I'm not sure what I want. The majority of me wants to end this, but there's this curiosity that keeps me around, and it sucks. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. 8 years. She married you. There was ample time to look elsewhere. Plenty of opportunity to see where her head was at. Waiting until after you were married to pull this nonsense seems harder to move past. Why bother with the wedding when she had so many doubts? Waiting until you'd committed to a life together before blowing that life apart was probably the point of no return. If you feel nothing for her now, that's unsurprising. Sometimes what we break won't be mended. If you've gone this long and only continue because of momentum, for the sake of seeing where it goes, it seems your subconscious has already made the choice for you. Now it's just for the rest of you to get with the program. Comment 2. Dude, did your wife just tell you that you're her second choice? Especially because she got rejected. So the other guy didn't want her, so you will do. What happens in another few years when she feels all safe and warm again and another guy looks her way? Is she gonna go cold for a year, then telling you it's over, tries to get with that guy, and when he rejects her, she comes back to you? Why are you allowing yourself to be the second choice? The reason you don't feel the same around her is that you are fighting against your own self-respect and longing for the past. The past is gone, dude. You need to think forward. Is she in this life what you want going forward? Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been a week since my last post, and boy, do I have an update for you. Remember how I was torn about my wife reaching out after our separation? Well, things have taken a turn, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. Let's start with a bit of history to give you some context. My wife and I had been inseparable since we were teenagers. We grew up together, shared our firsts, and built a life that seemed unshakable. But as you know, after we got married, she started expressing doubts, and eventually she left to find herself. It was a tough pill to swallow, especially since I thought we were on the same page about our future. Fast forward to now, and she's been trying to make amends, going to therapy, and we've been attending couples counseling. I've been seeing her efforts, but I've been struggling with my feelings, or lack thereof. I've been feeling numb around her, which has been confusing and frustrating. Now, for the juicy part of the update. During our last therapy session, we had a breakthrough, or more like a news was dropped. My wife confessed that during our time apart, she had developed feelings for her coworker, the one she tried to date. She admitted that her rejection by him was part of the reason she reached out to me again. I was floored. I mean, I had my suspicions, but hearing it confirmed was another thing entirely. The therapist suggested a compromise that was as unexpected as it was unconventional. She proposed that my wife and I take a step back from the romantic aspect of our relationship and focus on rebuilding our friendship first. The idea was that we had lost the foundation of our connection, and without it, any attempt at romance was like building a house on sand. So we've been trying that for the past week. We've been hanging out, just as friends, doing things we used to enjoy together. We went hiking, which was always our thing, and even played video games like we did when we were kids. It's been weird, but not entirely unpleasant. But here's the kicker, guys. During one of these friend dates, we ran into her coworker, the same one she had feelings for. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. He was clearly uncomfortable, and my wife was on edge. I played it cool, but inside I was a mess of emotions. After that encounter, my wife broke down. She apologized profusely, saying she realized how much she had hurt me and that seeing him made her understand the gravity of her actions. She said she wanted to be with me, but she understood if I couldn't move past this. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell her how much she had messed up, but another part of me saw the genuine remorse in her eyes. It was a confrontation I didn't know I needed, and it left me reeling. Since then, we've continued with our friendship approach, and I've noticed a shift in my feelings. I'm not saying everything is fixed, far from it, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of the old warmth I used to feel for her. It's confusing, to say the least. I've been reflecting on our past, on all the adventures we shared, and the love that once seemed unbreakable. It's made me realize that while I can't change what happened, maybe there's a chance for something new to grow from the ashes of our old relationship. Trevor asked me out on a date, and I found out he lives with his ex-girlfriend Nicole, and they share a car. Then I get a message from Nicole saying Trevor has been lying to us both. My boyfriend and I met around mid-June at a photo shoot where his dog and snakes were used as props. He came to this shoot with his then-girlfriend, we'll call her Nicole. His animals were taken care of really well, and I had complimented them both on their well-behaved animals. They both followed me on Instagram shortly after. Maybe a week or two after, I messaged Nicole interested in a pet spider. They were both exotic animal breeders, and she said she would have my now boyfriend, we'll call him Trevor, send me a link. Trevor messaged me the link, and that was all. Months later, like September, Trevor was reacting more and more to my social media accounts and having more conversations with me. I noticed around this time he had taken Nicole's name out of his bio and deleted their pictures together. Nicole had blocked me at this point. Trevor eventually asked me on a date, and I agreed. We clicked super well. We have almost the same exact interests, and he was so caring and understanding. The more I talked to him, the more I started to enjoy his company and friendship. After 3 or 4 dates, we introduced our dogs to each other. We both agreed that we would like to see where this goes, as everything was working out great for us. Trevor then drops the bomb that he still lives with Nicole and that they share a car together. I'm naturally a very trusting person, and Trevor was super open about the situation and answered all my questions. I felt secure. She requested to follow me shortly after. I screenshot this and sent it to Trevor, asking if I should be concerned. She blocked me again after I told him, and he told me that he was going to talk to her and to tell her to leave me alone. About 3 weeks ago, I had left the States to visit family in Brazil. We talked 24/7, and I mean from the moment we both woke up to the moment we both fell asleep. Things were getting spicy in our text messages, and we both couldn't wait to see each other to finally get the chance to be intimate. When I finally got back from my trip, we hung out that same day and had intimacy. The very next morning, I get a message request from his ex-girlfriend. Nicole states that she is coming to me as a woman and that Trevor has been lying to me and playing us both. We scheduled a day to meet up and talk to each other. We met up last night. Her body maneuvers all indicated she was being honest, anxiously playing with her sleeves the whole time, shaky and on the verge of tears, etc. She tells me that he lied to me when I asked him if he was truly done with Nicole and that they had been trying to work on their relationship this whole time. She also mentioned that he told her that I was just a friend and that every time we hung out, it was a group of people with us, and that our hikes when we introduced our dogs was a dog walking group. She also told me that she pays a majority of their bills, that they still hug and kiss when he gets home, and that they are still sexually intimate and had intimacy a few days before him and I did. She also begged me not to tell Trevor she said any of these things to me, and that she feared for her safety if he were to find out what she said. She said she knew we had intimacy because when he came home that night, she went to hug and kiss him hello, and he brushed her off. I immediately told Trevor that I no longer wanted to be with him in that way, and Trevor genuinely seemed disappointed. He is now sending me paragraphs about how he only wants me and that something happened and I wasn't telling him. Nicole had begged me not to say anything because she was scared of him. I eventually told him that someone told me things that made my stomach turn about him. He is trying ridiculously hard to change my mind and prove that he wants nothing to do with his ex and that someone is lying about him. He even sent me videos of Nicole admitting they have been broken up for a while and that they both moved on, but if she is scared of him, he could just be making her say those things. I'm extremely confused. I don't want to believe that he is doing this, but one of them is lying to me, and I can't tell who. Should I be honest with Trevor and tell him it was his ex that told me these things? Would that even matter because they still live together? He is trying really hard to prove to me he doesn't want her. I am torn. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Trevor should have told you from the start that he still lives with Nicole. I don't think he has been honest with you about the nature of their relationship. Why deal with his baggage? He was obviously cheating on her with you and will likely cheat on you as well. If she is financially supporting him, are you prepared to do the same? This guy is a player. Don't let him play you. Block him and her and avoid this drama. Comment 2. You need to walk away. At best, you're involved with someone who has a messy personal situation. At worst, you're part of a love triangle and are in the middle of a love power struggle between two other people. He's clearly not been honest with you, and her motivation for telling you things isn't to protect you, it's to push you out of the picture. These two aren't done with each other. Now for the update, day 1. So it's been a crazy few days since I last updated you guys. After I told Trevor I didn't want to be with him, he started blowing up my phone. I mean, nonstop messages, calls, the works. He was desperate, saying he'd do anything to prove he was telling the truth. I was torn, you know. Part of me wanted to believe him, but Nicole's words kept echoing in my head. I decided to do some digging. I remembered Trevor mentioning a friend, let's call him Mark, who he said knew everything about him. I reached out to Mark, and after some back and forth, he agreed to meet me for coffee. Mark was a tall guy, kind of quiet, but he seemed genuine. He told me that Trevor and Nicole had been rocky for a while, but he wasn't sure if they were officially over. He did say that Trevor talked about me a lot, which gave me a tiny bit of hope. But then Mark dropped a bombshell. He said that a couple of months ago he saw Trevor and Nicole at a party, all over each other. My heart sank. It was like every word out of Mark's mouth was a punch to the gut. I thanked him for his honesty and left, feeling like the world was spinning. Day 2. I was a mess after talking to Mark. I didn't know what to do. Trevor kept messaging me, and I finally replied. I told him we needed to talk in person. He agreed, and we met up at a park. It was awkward at first, but then Trevor started crying. He said he was sorry that he never meant to hurt me and that he was confused about his feelings for Nicole. I listened, but it was hard to take it all in. I thought about all the times we'd been together, how he'd looked at me, how he'd made me feel, and now, this. It was like a bad dream. Then, out of nowhere, Nicole showed up. She must have followed one of us there. She was furious, screaming at Trevor, accusing him of playing us both. Trevor tried to calm her down, but she was having none of it. She turned to me and said she was sorry for dragging me into their mess. She stormed off, leaving Trevor and me in stunned silence. Day 3. I didn't sleep much after the confrontation in the park. I kept replaying everything in my head. Trevor had been texting me non-stop, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I needed space to think. I decided to take my dog for a long walk, clear my head. As I walked, I thought about the first time I met Trevor, how he'd smiled at me, how easy it was to talk to him. It felt like a lifetime ago. When I got back home, there was a letter slipped under my door. It was from Trevor. He poured his heart out, apologizing for everything, saying he'd made a huge mistake and that he wanted to be with me. He said he'd move out of the place he shared with Nicole, that he'd do anything to make it right. I sat there, holding the letter, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. I didn't know what to believe anymore. One thing was clear, though. I couldn't trust Trevor. Not after everything that had happened. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.